In this video, I want to contrast true compassion with what I call misguided compassion. Now, misguided compassion is a term I use, and it's been called other things. Some types of codependency would be misguided compassion. I've heard it called caretaking. Some types of enabling would be a form of misguided compassion. But I'm going to go with this video, especially with the term misguided compassion, because it's really nice to contrast with true compassion. So let's start with true compassion. So true compassion empathy is very helpful, right? We sense and feel how another human being is doing. Often they may be suffering or having a rough time, okay? And then compassion is that we offer blessings and love and compassion to them, because we sense where they're at, okay? Now, in addition to suffering, compassion may just be a form of like understanding where they're at, like understanding their perspective. It's really challenging sometimes to get outside of our own perspective. And now many of us watching this video have gifts of like empathy and the ability to sense compassion. Many sensitive people that really, that sense compassion at a deep level. So when we're around someone, we sense what they're feeling. And now, it's also really good to sense the perspective that they're at. And even if the perspective, especially these days in kind of our divided world, to understand that where they're coming from, their perspective, and what they may be feeling because of their perspective, even if it's different than ours. And so then, rather than indulging in maybe judgment, if it's different than mine, there might be a tendency to judge, or that type of thing, or it could be frustrating or annoying to us if it's a different perspective. But rather, it's like, wow, like let's explore this. That's really interesting that they're experiencing this. What is their perspective? And then once we understand their perspective, which we may not agree with, then we can have compassion for the feeling and the state that they're in due to their perspective. So we don't have to agree to their perspective, but we can still have compassion for the emotional state that they're in, as at the human level. So true compassion is the key to true compassion is we're sensing something about what's going on with another human being, another being. It could be an animal, it could be a tree, but another life form. We're sensing, what is going on with them. Okay, now, misguided compassion is different. It is, and it often goes with those of us that are more sensitive, more empathetic, more compassionate, more of a tendency towards compassion. And we sense other people's feelings, and then and that's uncomfortable. It's like when we're very empathetic, you may have noticed, when we're very empathetic, we feel people's pain and we feel their discomfort, okay? And so then sometimes unconsciously, we don't want to feel that pain anymore. So we want them to experience less pain so we can experience less pain, And so misguided compassion starts becoming more about us, okay? We start making assumptions and we start projecting, like people that are in this situation, they must be in a lot of pain. Now, rather than actually feeling where they're at, we just figure, oh, people that are in this situation, they must be in a lot of pain. And we make these assumptions about how they are and what they're experiencing, rather than allowing ourselves to feel it, which we may have, tend to not want to feel as much as we used to. So we maybe shut that down. We start making assumptions about things. We take our discomfort with suffering and pain and what else could it be? Unfairness, abuse, trauma. It's like there's a lot of it all around us. So we almost become, like it's just like we can become overwhelmed by it, right? So then rather than feeling it like one by one, we start making assumptions sometimes. And we just figure, oh, that person needs some help here. Okay. And then it can be misguided because I start enabling them. I start taking responsibility for them. I start making assumptions on what they need and giving it to them when they're not even asking. I start, change and trying to help them out. Misguided compassion usually, is well-intentioned. It's what's that expression? The highway to hell is paved with good intentions. It's maybe one of those. It's like we're trying to reduce suffering. Okay, but we're doing it in a way that's not clear. Why is it not clear? It's because misguided compassion is based on something we are experiencing about us, okay, rather than getting a true state of where they're at. Now, technically, to get a clear state on where they're at, I have to feel it too. But there's a more direct, like right now, they're feeling this. Right now, their perspective is this with true compassion. And I have compassion for their state right now. Misguided compassion is more about, it's almost more conceptual. Like people that are in this situation, they tend to be in rough shape. So I'm just going to make the assumption and give them this compassion, whether they're there or not, whether they're asking for it or not. And then we can even start interfering, would be a word. The other problem with misguided compassion is we tend to sell ourselves short. Okay, so we're uncomfortable to say, ask what we need. Okay, because again, we make an assumption. It's like, oh, how many times have we said this? She has so much on her plate right now that I just don't want to ask her for a favor. Okay, I've heard myself say that many times, right? And then I see, again, that's, if you notice, it's rather than sensing where she's at, it's like, oh, she has a lot on her plate. Why? Because she has this going on, this going on, this going on, and this going on. I'm not really experiencing that she doesn't want to help me or she doesn't want to support me. I'm making an assumption. And so therefore, I don't ask her to support me. I don't ask her to help me out. I don't ask her for a favor. Why? Because I'm uncomfortable with asking for her for a favor. I might be uncomfortable for asking for for favors in general. And then especially if someone has a lot on their plate, then it's just like, well, I'm not going to ask. So then what do? Is we take one for the team. We don't ask for what we need. And this can really interfere, I was going to say screw up, interfere with our ability to allow abundance in our lives. People may want to offer us things. And if we would just ask and let people know where we're at, they would show us compassion, right? And they would offer us love and blessings and support. But we don't do that sometimes. Hopefully we do. But I notice myself and some of my clients, sometimes we don't do that. Because we think, okay, well, they've got enough going on. They don't need my need too. Okay, so we get in this habit and this pattern of not asking for what we need, and then like I just started a new job and I was negotiating things. I was negotiating salary. I was negotiating, all kinds of things, because I moved and had a new job. And I noticed this tendency to not like ask, and it's just like, and I ended up doing it, but it was a real challenge. That's like, oh, well, I don't want to, it's a really generous offer. So I don't want to ask for more, and then it's like, and like, why is that? It was because I was uncomfortable with asking for more. I found out later, that they were expecting me to ask for more. You know what I mean? Later on, my boss is like, oh yeah, we thought you would ask for more. And so it's like I made this assumption, Okay, and then I sell myself short. So a lot of times when this abundance is, this love is trying to come to me, abundance of love and beauty and financial, abundance is trying to come to me, I sell myself short because I don't want to put other people out based on my assumption. Okay, so what's the solution? The solution is to not make assumptions, is to not project my beliefs of my beliefs of misguided compassion. If, it will put people out, and I don't want to be a taker, and I'm not, I'm not like those narcissists or whatever it is. It's like that. It's like not basing what our actions on that, but rather based on, it's like, what do I need? Okay, I'm needing this in this situation. I could use some love and some support here. And then just case by case, okay, now yes, my friend does have a lot on her plate, but let's sense where she's at. And maybe I could just share a little bit of my need, okay, and see how she responds. And then let her be, an adult, a big girl. And if she's got too much on her plate, let her say, you know what, I'd love to help you, but I've got too much on my plate right now. Maybe I could help you next week. See, and this is kind of the slightly arrogant part of this misguided compassion. I'm making assumptions. I'm deciding for people, okay, whether they can be there for me. Can decide for people whether they like me or not if I'm single. It's like, oh, well, I don't want, she won't like me or whatever. So we sell ourselves short. And rather, what we could do is just say, I would like this. I am needing some help. I am attracted to this person, to you, or I'm, would love to be part of your community. And it's like, and that can be challenging for us people, myself included, that tend to indulge in this misguided compassion. It's like we're just so sensitive, and we have a difficult time with that uncomfortable phase when we ask someone for something, and it's like, oh my gosh, I hope I'm not putting them out. So my challenge to you, or my invitation, is to do it more case by case. The next time you need something, and the next time you're feeling for someone else, make sure it's based on true compassion. And you can only get true compassion from opening your heart, allowing their energy in, and feeling. And then we can directly experience what they're feeling. Then we can have compassion for that. It's not based on my beliefs. So that is my video for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an awesome week. I hope you're enjoying your summer, and that this week that you just kind of maybe work with this a little bit. And is it true compassion? Do I know this to be true? Am I directly experiencing what their state is? Or am I making some assumptions, and am I not asking for what I need? Am I selling myself short? And I will see you in a week.